Talk to me about what freedom and discipline means to you and how fasting helps you really live true to that discipline.
Thank you. As we were preparing for the podcast, we were discussing the concept of freedom and discipline, and we've done a podcast on that before, but I feel like it's really important to weave that concept into this eating episode, because I feel like people view them as that they exist on opposite ends of the spectrum, but really they're interconnected, and you can't have one without the other. And I did some really deep reflection on my own life and my own experiences, and came to this revelation, just as you shared, that everything good in my life has come from discipline. My spiritual walk, my marriage, my career, I couldn't have gotten to where I am in my life without some sort of discipline. And now applying that to my health journey, being very undisciplined in my health journey, I did not have freedom. I had a lot of stress. I had a lot of anxiety around it. I had a lot of guilt and shame. And once I really dialed in my diet, specifically first, which we teach our members to do that first and layer in exercise second if they're really overwhelmed. But that really started moving the needle for me, and I started seeing progress and getting momentum. But the discipline of fasting until 11, 12 o'clock, and believe me, we're talking about the thinking part of this. The thinking part for me is unlearning that breakfast is the most important meal of the day.
Come on.
Because I was raised to believe that.
Yeah.
And, our culture believes that, hey, you've got to fuel your body first thing in the morning or your brain's not going to fire, you're not going to be productive. And that's simply a myth or
what's the product of one of the greatest marketing campaigns ever deployed
Yes.
in the world by Grape Nuts.
Mm-hmm.
That breakfast is the most important meal of the day.
Yeah. And so
your first meal is.
Yeah, your first meal is, right.
Yes, I would agree. Your first, when you break your fast, it is the most important meal of the day. You're the most biochemically vulnerable, but it doesn't have to be the AM meal.
Right. And for me, I mean, my fasting journey was not easy in the beginning. Mostly because of my biochemistry, very insulin resistant.
You were intolerant.
And my body fought back and it didn't like it. But
I would actually say it wasn't easy. It was hard.
It was very hard.
It was very hard. You were very complex. It took us a long time.
I was pretty grumpy.
to figure out what was going on, but we really have uncovered, and I feel like you're unlocked.
Yeah. And I never gave up. So that was a really important thing for me, because in the past I have given up and I lost that discipline. And anyway, I appreciate you allowing me to share my journey, and I'm very forthcoming with doing that. But the thinking part is important, because if you don't have your mindset really wrapped around that concept, it will be more difficult for you to do.
Yeah, and I think patience and curiosity, if you're listening to this and this is resonating with you, and you hadn't really given it a go for 6 to 12 months, I would encourage you to be curious and be patient. It took me about 6 months after I knew I wanted to do it, because I was a grumpy bear, because I woke up and I could never fast, because I wake up and I'm hungry. But what I've learned is that is completely a learned behavior. And it is my brain saying, I want a dopamine hit. And ideally that would be some crunchy, sweet carbohydrates.
Yep.
The unlearning, as you said, is part of the thinking process, being patient and curious about what fasting means for you. And the discipline for you, as I can speak to being front row of your whole journey, is that it has evolved, and allowing yourself to be flexible while still being committed to the goal of figuring out fasting. You allowed fasting to be implemented as your body would allow you to do it.
Yes.
And as you've stayed consistent with that and never giving up and showing up every day, here you are, completely different. And the ability to now achieve a deeper level of discipline, which then yields more freedom, which allows you to take that new freedom and energy and focus and put it even deeper into your discipline. It's a positive momentum cycle.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you're now undoing decades.
Mm-hmm.
Let me rephrase. You have undone decades of confusion and complexity, which, by the way, is the byproduct of lack of discipline.
Yeah. I mean, I can safely say I've done every diet under the planet, pretty much. And this is the first time where I feel in control. I feel confident.
And it's simple.
And it's simple. I mean, you're literally eliminating a third of the decisions that you have to make. I mean, you and I both make multiple really complex decisions per day.
Yep.
This is something that I don't want to think about too much. I mean, you do have to put some thought into it. And, you know, with this thinking pillar, one piece of advice I would give people is set your environment up for success. You know, if you open the pantry first thing in the morning and you see all those breakfast foods, you're going to want them first thing in the morning. So maybe, you know, clean that out or do something in that regard.
Or get out of the house.
Go work out.
I have two kids, and I don't want to make eating weird for them.
Exactly.
So I work out,
Mm-hmm.
I grab my coffee, and I kiss them, and I say, see you later.
Yep.
On the weekends, it's very hard for me to be successful because it's all around me.
Yeah.
I don't have an environment that is supporting me.
Mm-hmm.
At the office, we have water and coffee.
Yep. Yeah.
And that's it. And then I get busy about my work and I forget about it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's serving me well.
Yeah.
You know, and the very things that I used to eliminate 40 plus pounds of fat off my body, and over 20% body fat, are the exact same strategies that I'm using 5 years later to maintain.
Yeah.
And
That's awesome.
And there's so much freedom that I experience that I can use that newfound surplus of energy and creativity and decision-making capacity, and I can apply them to other things.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for that. I think your story will resonate with many, many people. In the next layer about of considering how we should be feeding our body, we slide into how will you typically experience this physically, a fasted lifestyle. We alluded to it a little bit in the first section. You know, there is an element of transition and adaptation. Some people, like fish and water, they're like, anyway, that was easy. And they're totally unlocked day one. It took me 6 months to really unpack what the heck. I mean, and unlearn that I'm actually not hungry.
Yeah.
That I'm feeling the desire to eat, and I'm feeling the pangs of hunger, but it's not because I actually need to eat.
Mm-hmm.
There was plenty of fat and energy all around me. I eat to give my body energy, and I would say to myself, go get the energy.
Mm-hmm.
Go get it. It's there. It's in my belly. I'm not feeding you.
Right.
I'm in control. And then there's that freedom.
Yeah.
There's a sense of, that gets a little bit into the next section of kind of like the emotional, what you feel from it. But I would just say, and I'll let you kind of wrap this section up. But for me, right away, physically, I experienced more energy because of the decision-making fatigue. Number two, less bloated. I felt very, very trim. Even when I wasn't, there was this sense of lack of inflammation, like my body was doing what it was designed to do. I was creating a famine where my body was eating itself, which is what it is designed to do, cleaning out the stored energy. I slept better. I felt like I moved better. I was able to exercise more effectively. But the primary work that was done was really, for me, in that first 6 months of getting my mind right, like we talked about, but then allowing my body to feel what it's going to feel as I adapt to this new lifestyle. Mm-hmm. What about you?
Isn't that nice for you?
It wasn't so.
Well, I mean, you know, but it was just a little harder because, again, my body just didn't want to really be in that fasted state in the beginning. But I experienced, I was a little grumpy. And this is in the first probably month or so, but headache and just really, really tired in the morning. And then, once I had my first meal, I felt better and really perked up a little bit. But once you kind of get over that initial phase and your body gets more adapted to it, I experienced exactly what you did. And in fact, recently when I did my colonoscopy prep, that involved probably about 36 hours of fasting. It wasn't horrible. Like, I was ready to eat at that point, but it wasn't like I was dragging and dying and just like, oh my gosh,
you were conditioned,
starving. You know what I mean? It was a little bit more pleasant experience, if that could be pleasant at all. But in the beginning it was difficult for me, but and I had some coaching. I did coaching with Zane at that time. We had a weekly call, and he would really talk me through what was happening to my body, remind me, hey, this is going to let up.
Well, back to what you said, you created an environment that encouraged you to do the thing that you wanted to do. You got it here. You got it through coaching, through your trainer. You got it. You were immersed in an environment of encouraging. And depending on where one is on their health journey, it may be very difficult to have the patience and the curiosity, because judgment and like, this doesn't work. It's not like the overwhelm.
What do you mean you're not eating?
And there's a lot of mixed messages, right? From pop culture. The bottom line is humans are not that frail.
Yeah.
You'll be fine. Eating a few hours later.
Yeah. Well, and
but your body pushes back.
How many patients have you experienced in the ICU or in really critical conditions where, they're getting fed through an IV, but they're not getting physical food, and they're still able to sustain their life until they get better. But it's
we have all become, as a culture, our thinking around how we need to eat has become diluted. And I think the big take-home point for the physical experience of a fasted lifestyle is there is going to be, it's like a two-step process. Step one, it might be immediate. It might be 6 months like me. It might be a year and a half like you. But stay the course, because on the back end of that is complete freedom and simplicity and a lightness in your physical body that you begin to feel, and you're no longer chained to this, like, I have to eat, or I'm grumpy, or I have like, there's so much freedom.
And also pick a cadence that works for you.
Right.
In the beginning, I didn't fast every day. I fasted maybe 3 days out of the week, and then I added more time to it.
And maybe it was just 12 hours.
Yeah. And, I used an app to help me track when I could eat. But, there's lots of tools out there to help you, and you don't feel like you have to go great, big guns right out of the gate. You just kind of start slow if you need to, and really let your body kind of adapt to that so that you can tolerate it and feel better.
I totally agree. Patience, curiosity, and stick-to-itiveness is the key to physically be successful at improving the way you feed your body.